episode 18. If you've been following either the Predator Bay build behind me or the 3,000 gallon build in the distance there upgrade, you know that I've been working on a lot of big projects here in the aquarium basement. And today we're going to take it back to a much smaller project, but still a very enjoyable one. If you recall, on the freshwater side of the house, I have the 125 gallon Asian Planet Stream tank behind me. And I always say it's one of my favorite tanks because it's my easiest tank. I get 80% of the enjoyment of this tank as I do the really big ones like Predator Bay and the 1,500 gallon system and 3,000 gallon system at like a quarter of the effort. So on the saltwater side of the house, I have the 150 gallon Low-Tech, and that is my saltwater version of this tank here. Lots of enjoyment, not a lot of effort. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, the 150 gallon Low-Tech aquarium. Low-Tech Reef Aquarium, excuse me. So this is my 150 gallon Reef Cube that, if you recall from a previous episode on this tank, it's been running about 4 months. The first episode for this aquarium, it was just set up. It had just the base, just sand and base rock, and I seeded it with a little bit of live rock from my existing 1,500 gallon system over there to get bacteria and macroalgae started in the aquarium. And then I basically, since I had a source of bacteria, mature bacteria, I went ahead and started adding small amounts of fish, corals, and cleanup crew right away on this aquarium, just within 2 weeks of setting it up. It had a small period of time where it had a shrimp degrading in it, but for the most part, I've just been slowly building it up. And so it went through an ugly phase for, I don't know, the first month or so, where you had this hair algae. You can see this is a lot of times very common when you have just base rock that's never been in the ocean or anything like that, just like Marco rock, that sort of thing, is you have a lot of silicates and there's a lot of nutrients in the rock, and as soon as you hit it with light, obviously in water, it just kicks off and you get that. So picture the entire aquarium is white base rock with the exception of a little bit of seeded rock down here and hair algae everywhere. So what did I do? I immediately started upping the cleaning crew. Started the tank with a small cleaning crew, and then I just kept adding and adding and adding. So as you can see, it's not completely covered in hair algae anymore, and it is getting completely covered in coralline algae and getting very, very well seeded. And it's very, very stable in terms of the bacterial colonies are very strong. The water quality is excellent. The corals that have been added so far are doing great. So everything's going the right direction, and I really just need to keep increasing the amount of invertebrates. Because if you recall, there's a reason we call this the low-tech tank. So it has kessels, which are not very low-tech, but in terms of the totality of the amount of equipment on this tank, it's low-tech. So we do have good lighting, and we do have one change. So this tank being 3 feet deep, 3 feet in every dimension except 27 inches high, the kessels were originally back here, which wasn't doing that well since my reef is sort of centered. So I found out that they had these extensions, which I picked up off of BRS, and now I've brought my lights out to the middle, which has just been excellent. That's only been that way for a couple weeks, but it's been a big improvement for the tank. And the other change is the water movement pump in the back, so wave maker, whatever you want to call it. Originally I had the gyre back there, and it was okay, but it lacked a lot of flexibility. So I ended up changing that out for a Vortec MP40, which is giving me a lot more flexibility with controlling the water movement within the aquarium, to give the corals what they need, to get the nutrient export, get stuff off the substrate, but not blow everything around. And then the other thing has been building up the fish load. So the fish load is more or less all the way up. We have the 2 tangs, the dwarf angel, 2 clowns, a couple wrasses, a couple blennies, and they're not coming out right now, but there are also a couple very small gobies as well that live underneath that rock there. But it is mostly built up. It's mostly about building up the corals and the invertebrates, the support invertebrates like the crabs and the snails and the hermit crabs. But it's something that you have to do over time, and it is definitely ready for the next batch. So hopefully when we add the next batch, we'll see this remnants of a little bit of the hair algae getting eaten up by the additional crew. Because with this, I've never added a full cleaning crew to the top, because part of what makes this a low-tech tank, it doesn't have a filter, or it doesn't have a quote-unquote like a wet dry filter, or a protein skimmer, or hang on the back, or anything like that, or even a traditional sump full of baffles and filter material. It just has a refugium. The entire base of the aquarium is a refugium, and as you can see, it is extremely mature now, with the live rock being completely grown in, because this is the best environment for it. It's highly oxygenated and well lit. And there's a little bit of macroalgae in the back, some shado back there, but it hasn't taken off yet because nutrients surprisingly haven't been very high, even considering there's no skimmer or anything like that. And what I'll do is, well, I'll tell you what, let me take you down underwater into the refugium and see if we can see any of the cleanup crew that does the work down there. So the reason I can have a low-tech reef aquarium with not a lot of equipment like protein skimmers or sumps with filter socks or filter media is not that I don't still need those things. I still need physical filtration, mechanical, biological. It's that I'm using invertebrates to get the job for me, and bacteria. So everyone uses bacteria, right? The rock has got to get completely coated, the sand, the glass, everything in bacteria. That's the only thing that's going to make your tank stable. So this tank has, for its size, has a lot of live rock, a lot of live sand, a lot of bacteria, and it also has a lot of invertebrates. So normally the cleanup crew would be pretty much primarily in the aquarium, but this tank actually has more cleanup crew, more invertebrates living in the refugium than it does in the display aquarium. Now, like we talked about before, there's still some hair algae left, so there needs to be more cleanup crew in the display aquarium itself, and that is coming. But the engine of this aquarium that keeps it running is the refugium. So it is, breaking down any excess foods that reach down there. I let them go straight down. There's nothing prohibiting them from getting, from the overflow down into the refugium, because it's any leftover foods, any pieces of algae, anything that flows through there, that is food for the invertebrates that are living in the refugium. And I'm also using denitrification, so I have lots of area in the rock where there is space for anaerobic bacteria to live, to basically complete the nitrogen cycle, which is to break down excess nitrate in the water. That's the byproduct of the primary denitrification or nitrifying bacteria system, breaking ammonia to nitrite to nitrate. So we're going to take the nitrate all the way out. We're going to do it with that bacteria, both living in the refugium and in parts of the display aquarium, and we're going to use macroalgae. You might recall that in the display aquarium, we did have macroalgae. We had a bunch of it in the front. There's still a few on the side there that have gotten a little bit coated in algae, but most of it wasn't doing great initially because my lights were too far in the back. But well before I got those extensions for the lights, I actually went ahead and moved the macroalgae to the giant 700-gallon sump on the 1,500-gallon system. So they're in there and they're growing, and as they propagate, I'll move some back into here now that we have the lighting better positioned. But let's give these guys some food and see if we can get everybody to come out. Okay, put some frozen food in there, and actually we can see one of the gobies. There's actually a mated pair. Actually, see both of them coming out from underneath that rock, which is their home. They've smelled the food and they're out to get their share before all the big boys take it. You see everybody's out. So all these guys are munching down. Let me go over the next steps for this aquarium. So as I talked about, increasing the cleanup crew, adding more basic cleaners to the top. So to get rid of the hair algae, I'll be adding more hermit crabs and crabs. And I'm also going to be adding some decorative shrimp to the top, and also some decorative crabs, because this tank is an invert first tank. So the only fish that go in here are fish that are compatible with coral invertebrates and, you know, cleanup crew invertebrates like snails and crabs and hermit crabs and shrimp and that sort of thing. So I will be adding decorative shrimps, decorative crabs to the main aquarium, as well as some of your basic cleanup crew, just your hermit crabs and like your Mithrax crabs, things like that for algae control. And of course, I'll be beefing up the coral. So we've had a few in here and everyone's done great. The only casualty we had was one small frag fell behind the reef back there. It got blown off, and I didn't realize it was gone until it had been gone for a while and had fallen down there and basically gotten kind of covered in sand and stuff, and just, you know, it shriveled up. So, but everything else is there. All the other corals are doing great. Tentacles are out. They've all been growing, so it's all good. I have added a couple of small frags of zoanthids, one here and one over here, and both of those started as just a few heads, and they are, well, this one over here is dozens of heads now and probably a little more than a dozen here, so we have growth going on there, and since the lights have been moved forward, that growth has just continued. So all's good there. So this is a softy tank, so you can sort of expect to see more mushrooms, polythoas, and zoanthids in the lower base of the aquarium, and more soft corals on the top. Looking to get some of the thicker soft corals, so as well as some of the branching, like I have in the back there. I think I have enough of the toadstool leathers, so we'll be looking at more of the branching leathers and some of the thick leathers to build up on the top part of the reef. And they will be basically all along the perimeter of the main part of the reef, and then the whole middle part is actually open. There's a channel the fish can go all the way through, as well as all of the caves going through the middle, which they've taken on their own to also excavate a little bit. So they've given themselves the amount of room that they wanted. They've taken care of you know, making it just right for them. So that's it for the update. This is the 4-month update on the 150 Low-Tech Reef Cube. Again, this is my easy tank. All I've done to this is add invertebrates and dose 2-part Reef Fusion 2-part from Seachem, and add top-off water. So very, very easy, very, very simple. Really the only real technology are high-end lights, a high-end water movement pump, and beyond that, everything is just rock, bacteria, and invertebrates doing the job 24 hours a day. Those little hermit crabs, snails, regular crabs, shrimp, they're just doing their job. You know, they're eating the excess stuff. It's just a matter of balance at this point, getting those levels of those invertebrates up to where we have no more hair algae, but not too many that we starve them out. So, all right, thanks for checking out the update on the 150-gallon Low-Tech Reef Cube. Stay tuned for another update on Predator Bay coming soon. A lot of progress has been made there. And also stay tuned for a big update on the 3,000-gallon. The plumbing project is coming along. The lighting project's complete. Sort of the cat got out of the bag with the plant project from the previous video that I didn't intend to make about the leak. So that's out of the bag. But the rest of the projects are coming along, and there will be an update video on that. So check back.